Folks, Canadian Prepper here. Something big is going on behind the scenes. There appears to be hybrid warfare being waged against the North American power grid, and we're going to discuss today what it is exactly that the Department of Homeland Security and perhaps the FBI knows that we don't, and why aren't these stories about attacks on substations throughout the United States getting more media attention. We're also going to be talking about former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev's 10 predictions for the apocalypse, or more precisely, 10 predictions for the demise of Western hegemony. We're also going to be talking about the inevitable blackouts coming to Europe, because today Putin has said that any country who's complicit in the oil price cap scheme ain't getting any oil, and it's probably going to be the same when it comes to gas when that goes into effect as well. Couldn't have seen that coming, could we? We also got Taiwan extending compulsory military service to 1 year instead of 4 months because, of course, there's a war with China coming. We also have the largest scale flight cancellations ever before seen in North America as a result of this major blizzard, which also has the National Guard currently in Buffalo to try to get a hold of that situation there. And we have an interesting warming trend in Europe, which may be what has postponed the long-anticipated Russian winter offensive. Now, before I do that, I figure I owe you guys some more lighthearted content, because it's been one hell of a year, and I've added some weight to my EDC, just like my waistline over the last couple days. Hope you guys made some good memories over the holidays. I just want to show you a few EDC trinkets that I've picked up. Now, you guys all know my go-to, the staple of Canadian Preppers EDC, is the Benchmade Bug-Out knife. It's ultralight. It's incredibly durable. I love these knives. I've carried this well over 5 years. I also have the Leatherman Skeletool. Nothing new. This is old as the hills. Leatherman has a lot of great options. I'm looking for something lightweight that has the pliers, the screwdriver, and maybe a knife or two. I don't need a saw. This doesn't have to be some Swiss champ contraption. That's the kind of thing I'm putting in the glove box. I like this, and it's also a good beer opener. And yes, you can tell it's the holidays, because I usually don't drink beer, but let me tell you, I've had to let a little loose over the holidays. And then I also have as a backup the American Lawman. I used to have the Benchmade Bug-Out Light, but I'm trying the Lawman. It's a bit beefier if the job requires a bit more heft or weight behind it. The Lawman is great for that. This is cold steel. Okay, it's just got a nice, it's got a nice slim profile, but it's also got a nice fat belly to it. So, like me, after the holidays, it's S35 VN steel, and it's just incredibly durable knife. And you can even do that. It's not one-handed close, though. I like knives that are one-handed close, like this Benchmade Bug-Out here. You can close it in a variety of different ways. Now, I also have my paracord belt. Oh, I didn't tell you about this. This is the most important thing. This is the newest thing. This is the Olight Arcfeld. Now, most flashlights have that tubular design, most EDC flashlights. This is a flat, kind of rectangular form factor. And I've wanted a flashlight like this for a long time. I've been hitting up companies saying, please make me this flashlight, because I'm too lazy to go to China and have it made for myself. This is cool because it's flat, it fits, it's very compatible with the tactical pants that we always don on the channel. And it's ultralight, but there are some drawbacks. I still think it could be a little bit thinner, because I'm all about high speed, low drag when it comes to EDC. Okay, I don't want big and bulky, because, hey, ladies, we got enough bulge over here. Just kidding. That's your one joke for the day. But no, I find that if you go overboard with your EDC, you're just not going to carry it at all. So I would like something that was maybe about a third thinner than this, and something that didn't have that proprietary magnetic charge that Olight forces on people. I don't like that aspect of it. And this one has a laser point on it, so it's fun for the cats. And one of my German Shepherds, who is outcats the cats when it comes to chasing red dots. But it's cool. I mean, this is a great option. I believe Streamlight has another option. I just thought I'd show you guys that. And of course, I got the paracord belt that I've been wearing probably for 7 or 8 years now. And that's just great because no matter where I go, I got a tow rope, I got shelter, I can snare a rabbit, I have fishing line, hundreds of feet of fishing line, I have a way to start a fire, and it's all on my belt. And the buckle. Maybe we're almost in store for another YouTube video or short on that. I've been hitting up the shorts lately. Anyways, I've rambled on for 5 minutes. I ain't said nothing yet. What else is new? Let's talk about Dmitry Medvedev's 10 predictions for the dissipation of Western hegemony. Now, right now, of course, as you guys know, we are playing nuclear Russian roulette. Lavrov came out today and warned once again that if Ukraine, I think this is their final warning that he provided them with today. I think he wanted to give them one more warning. Whenever you start to hear Russia talking about peace and now giving Ukraine an ultimatum, you know that the offensive is coming, and they're trying to give them one final off-ramp before the shit royally hits the fan and they turn the heat up, because it's going to get turned up, which probably won't be a bad thing at this point in time, because most of the country is now officially out of power, but not the kind of heat that they want. Now, Medvedev, first prediction, oil price will rise to $150 a barrel, which, you know, that makes sense. That's right in line with the new restrictions imposed by Putin on countries who are complicit with the price cap scheme. So we are likely going to see oil rise. It is a non-renewable resource. The world is still growing in spite of some demographic changes here in the West. Energy consumption only continues to rise, and energy output, and not peak oil, but peak production, happened many years ago now, about 5 years ago, I believe, 5 to 7 years ago. Yeah, and I think that was shale as well. Shale is what saved the world, and then even that peaked. And I believe that the biggest shale boss in the United States came out and said earlier in the year that shale has peaked. Okay, so that means that oil can only go one way, and that's up, unless there is a major Malthusian catastrophe. Now, I will say, and by that I mean many billions of people dying, which would, of course, lower the demand for oil. I will say that this weather stuff that we're seeing around the United States, well, it might put increased stress on natural gas. You're likely going to see oil consumption reduced because, of course, you know, people can't drive anywhere, right? So people are just not going to be gassing up as much. So we're going to have a bit of a nature-imposed lockdown. He also predicts that gas will go to 5,000 per 1,000 cubic meters, or $5 per 1,000 cubic meters. I'm not sure what that is. I know that right now it's around 2,000, I believe, in Europe. And he's referring to Europe natural gas, because natural gas is priced differently around the world, unlike something like gold or oil, which there's a global price. So, yeah, I mean, that seems like a reasonable prediction. He believes that the UK will rejoin the European Union. I think that one is probably reasonable as well. There is one party, is it the Labour Party, who wants to rejoin? I don't know much about domestic politics and Brexit and all that stuff, but it appears that that's plausible. He also says the EU will collapse after UK's return, and Euro will drop out of use as the former European currency. Maybe, maybe not. It's hard to say. I don't know enough to comment on that one in particular. Maybe you guys have some thoughts in the comment section below. Of course, if we de-dollarize, as one of his other predictions indicates, then indeed that might drag the euro down with it. Poland and Hungary will occupy western regions of the formerly existing Ukraine. Now, I think right here what he's doing is he's telegraphing the Russian plan. And I should say that this whole thing is ostensibly just a joke, but there is some truth buried in it. And the way he presented it on Twitter made it appear that it was just in jest, but there's definitely, you know, some truthful components to it. So I think what this is doing is that this is telling us Russians' plan. This is telling us that Russia does plan on taking everything perhaps short of Western Ukraine, possibly Kiev, possibly avoiding Kiev, that is, and that Poland and Hungary are going to be the ones who absorb what's remains of the rump state of Ukraine. I think at this point in time, it is not beyond the realm of possibility. He believes that the Fourth Reich will be created, encompassing the territory of Germany and its satellites, Poland, the Baltic states, Czech and Slovakia, and the Kiev Republic, as he calls it, the Kiev Republic. So he's basically saying that maybe we don't want Kiev. We're just going to take everything east of the Dnieper River. Now, I'm wondering how Germany is going to pull this off with no cheap energy, because they're going to be fully reliant on liquid natural gas. Maybe they're going to get some gas from some offshore Israeli natural gas projects, possibly Qatar and other small countries. They're going to get it here and there. I don't see how they're going to become an economic Fourth Reich powerhouse without cheap energy. We do know that Germany is increasing their military spending, but I'm not sure how Poland is going to feel about being absorbed by Germany. And Poland is preparing to have the second largest military in Europe, next to the Russians, of course, and of course short of any nuclear weapons. So I don't know how that's going to play out. He also thinks that war is going to break out between France and the Fourth Reich. So I'd have to presume then that Germany is going to get nuclear weapons, maybe, because I highly doubt Germany is going to go to war with France, because after all, France does have nukes. Germany does not. Remember, Germany is still effectively under American occupation since World War II. That's a lot of things that people forget. When we're talking about Nord Stream 2 and all this stuff, those tentacles of the deep state likely run very, very deep. He says something else here that I know absolutely nothing about, and that's that Northern Ireland will secede from the UK and join the Republic of Ireland. Okay, not much to say about that. He says that civil war will break out in the United States, California and Texas becoming independent states as a result. Texas and Mexico will form an allied state. I don't know about that. That's a hard sell right there. That's where I think he's probably just being a bit of a troll here, because I can't see Texas and Mexico forming it out. There's just too much animosity towards the border and just Mexico in general. That's why I'm thinking this must be a troll, unless he expects that Mexico is going to flood the place with immigrants and take over in that respect, possibly. He says that Elon Musk will win the presidential election in a number of states, after which, after the new civil wars end, we will have been given to the GOP. I'm not sure if that's just what that is. Could Elon Musk win the presidency and become the first technocratic leader, the first truly technocratic leader? The whole idea with the technocrats, in an idealistic sense, is that the people who run society will be the ones who are the most hardline scientific. So it's one of the most logical type of societies that you could have. Perhaps, I mean, nobody would have thought 20 years ago that Trump would be president. If Trump can be president, there is no reason why Elon Musk could not be president at this point in time. No reason whatsoever. So, yeah, it's plausible. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. I don't think Elon wants that job. But you never know. I mean, he's shown that he's willing to do things which are not particularly fiscally responsible for the sake of his own political ideals. So, you never know. They also believe, and most importantly, and this one I do have to agree with, but there's probably a bit of wishful thinking on Russia's part in terms of the expediency with which it gets here, is the Bretton Woods system collapse. That is essentially the system that provides the foundation for the global reserve currency being the US dollar and having everything traded in US dollars. He thinks that this will lead to the IMF and World Bank to crash. I know a lot of developing countries will like that. He believes that euro and dollar will stop circulating as the global reserve currencies, and digital fiat currencies will be actively used instead. And I believe he said something about the price of gold, like acting as a gold-backed currency, right? That the global currency is going to be gold-backed. And right now, with the price of gold rising, guys, if you look at the markets, if you look at crypto, the only thing that has held its own this year, which is pretty much at the exact same levels as it was when it started the year, is gold. And oil is going up once again also. Now, apparently Elon Musk responded to this, and he said that these are the most absurd predictions that he had ever heard, and stressed that they demonstrated an astonishing lack of awareness of the progress of artificial intelligence and sustainable energy. So notice the criticism that he's levying here. It's not necessarily against the United States, and it's not against the political stuff that's involved in these predictions. It's against the energy issues with respect to oil being $150 a barrel. Apparently Elon Musk thinks that artificial intelligence is going to change the game, perhaps in terms of the technologies that we're able to create, perhaps in terms of our ability to generate endless, abundant amounts of energy. I hope he's not on that cold fusion train, because we know that that is still decades and decades away. But I think he's mostly referring to the assumptions of the oil. And it seems like he's kind of trolling there also, because he says that these are the most absurd predictions that he ever heard because of the lack of awareness of artificial intelligence, sustainable energy. This doesn't necessarily sound like he's ruling out a presidential run. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Now, okay, what I promised initially, and perhaps the most important thing that's not getting enough media attention, are these substations that are being attacked. Okay, on Christmas Day, 4 electrical substations in Tacoma, Washington were vandalized. They're calling it vandalized. And they're also using the term burglaries to describe this. Now, this has been happening, I think, with greater frequency throughout the year 2022. I think there has been more attacks on, and don't quote me on this, but I reported on it a few weeks ago, and I think the statistic was that there was more attacks on the substation than ever before, by a wide margin. Okay, so they're saying, according to the sheriff's office within this county, that it's unknown if there are any motives or if there was a coordinated attack on the power systems. I mean, get real. 4 different substations targeted within the same city on the same day, and you're telling me that that's not a coordinated attack? I mean, I understand they're trying to not be speculative here, but let's get real. The 4 attacks follow other warnings and advisories from federal officials of possible domestic terrorism attacks on the U.S. power grid. Similar attacks have been reported in Washington, Oregon, North Carolina since November. Domestic terrorism presumes that this is something which is motivated perhaps along the lines of political domestic terrorism. People speculated in North Carolina it had something to do with the transgendered party or whatever it was, that was a show or a drag show or whatever it was. That was never proven to be true, and there really is no motive that would align or map onto that in this situation. Now, it may come out later on that these are in fact all connected, but what this seems like to me is hybrid warfare being waged by outside nation states, maybe testing the grid, because we know there are sleeper cells all over the place, and in the run-up to World War III, you would see this type of hybrid warfare on critical infrastructure. Okay, these sleeper cells being awakened and activated to go and take out the grid, to test out the grid. Now, this could be, if you want to really put the tinfoil hat on, and I don't believe this, I'm just trying to cover all the bases, this could be an attempt by the government to provide justification to get funding to harden the grid, because they know what's coming. Because they're saying that this critical infrastructure is not adequately protected enough. So it's almost like they're signaling we need more funding to harden this critical infrastructure. The motives for that could be multifaceted, everything from just the government preparing for other grid down events and trying to get ahead of things, to them actually preparing for this hybrid warfare. But in January, the Department of Homeland Security warned that domestic extremists have been developing credible, specific plans to attack electricity infrastructure since 2020. Well, who are these extremists with their specific plans? Why can they not provide us more information about who exactly this is? And what is the point in doing something like this if you're not going to take credit for it? If you're not doing something for the purpose? The whole point of terrorism is to let people know that it's you who is striking terror within them. Like, the whole point is so that you know who did it, right? It's just like, I think you guys get what I'm saying. So the idea that they would do this anonymously makes no sense. It just makes no sense whatsoever. Now, I mean, it could just be some psychopathic antisocial person who is just out there trolling the grid. But I don't think so, man. I think there's definitely something more to this, and I believe it deserves more media attention. Why is this happening right now? I mean, like, look, the first thing I jump to is maybe the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, any of our enemies are probably, and I mean our enemies from the perspective of our government's enemies, our deep state's enemies, maybe they are some way complicit with this. According to, I'm interested to see what Survival Lily has to say about this next story. According to Austria Defense Minister Claudia Tanner, she warns that blackouts are inevitable. That's the word she used, inevitable. The European has little chance of staving off power outages amid the energy crunch exacerbated by the Ukraine conflict and should brace for impact. She also claimed, without providing evidence, this is according to a Russian media source, that Russian President Vladimir Putin's hacker attacks on the Western energy grid are a form of hybrid warfare, and that this is happening on an ongoing basis. This, of course, would map on well to what we were just talking about happening in North America. She's saying that Austria's military, as well as other governmental services, regularly conduct relevant exercises with respect to preparing for these types of large-scale blackouts. And she also admits that there's a thin line between raising awareness with a sense of proportion and stirring up fears. Well, you know, I mean, sometimes people run faster scared, and that's what we're all about, providing you guys actionable information, pairing our daily analysis with actionable information that you can use to get better prepared for SHTF. And speaking of which, last day to get 14% off CanadianPreparedness.com. This is a store-wide sale. Get it while the getting is good, guys. If you want to stock up on prepper food, if you want to get the latest and greatest in prepper tech, you will find it in one place, and that's CanadianPreparedness.com. We have everything that a prepper, survivalist, bushcrafter, off-gridder, homesteader, camper, whatever you define yourself as would your heart's desire, we have it. Now let's talk about the price cap. So Putin has said that a ban on all oil supplies in response to the price cap will come into effect on February 1st, 2023. Oil futures are rising on this news, but not as much as I would have expected. I think we're still pricing in a lot of slowdowns as a result of a potential recession. Never mind potential recession, as the result of what will inevitably be called a recession. Of course, it'll only be called that in hindsight when it's over, because the government doesn't want to spook people out of the markets, which the markets is doing that themselves right now. And they're saying this is only valid until July of 2023. So once again, Russia is, you know, I mean, as much as they've invaded Ukraine, they're still presenting as being diplomatic when it comes to this trade war that is ongoing. We have Taiwan extending compulsory military service from 1 year. It was up from 4 months. This signals that they know that the war with China is coming. I would say that it could happen at any time. There's a massive military buildup of China in just around the Philippine region in a stretch of islands in the South China Sea. We also have one of the largest incursions ever by the Chinese just happened yesterday during Christmas. And of course, we have this stuff going on between South Korea and the North, signaling that an offensive is on the immediate horizon, or it's not beyond the realm of possibility. We have commuter chaos all around North America, and a lot of people are frustrated at these airports. And as much as I sympathize with that, it's kind of one of those situations where, you know, you buy the ticket, you take the ride. It's just what it is. I'm not saying that these what you call them, what did you call them? Air companies, places that have planes. Where it's on the tip of my tongue. Why can I not figure out the word? These airlines. That's what it is. Jeez, man, it's been a long day. Why these? I'm not saying that these airlines are the best managed companies especially in times like these. But I mean, it is what it is, guys. I mean, if you're planning on traveling this time of year when you know that there's going to be these types of potential weather anomalies, and this might just be a sign of the times. More extreme weather, more moisture in the atmosphere due to warming is going to cause more chaotic blizzard, wild, icy house events like we've seen in the last week. We have the National Guard on duty and deployment in Buffalo after looters are taking advantage of the situation. It really is an ideal situation for looters. The only thing that might impede looters in a situation like this is that they can't really carry much, because it's pretty much what you can carry, and you ain't carrying much through 4 feet of snow. So yes, emergency services might not be able to get out to these locations out of fear of being outmanned and outgunned, and just the inaccessibility of these places after several feet of snow get dumped on. But it's not always easy pickings for the criminals as well. So just be ready, folks. And, you know, I hope that some people caught wind of our winter preparedness videos. I mean, I don't delude myself into thinking that my audience is that substantial in the grand scheme of things, but there's a lot of people who unfortunately perished in their vehicles because they didn't have the right equipment. If these people would have just made sure that their gas gauge was topped off, if they had a means of keeping themselves warm in the car, like some wool blankets, some emergency blankets, some fur hats, some warmer clothing. Always make sure if you're going out in wintertime, you're not going out in just a t-shirt and shorts because you're too lazy to change or put a jacket on, and you know that you're going to be going from one heated place to another. It's always important that you wear a winter jacket because you just never know what can happen. It's important also, if possible, you have some candles, you have a means of alternatively heating your space, so it could be in the form of a propane heater or a kerosene heater. If you want to go all out, go watch our video and you can see my complete winter loadout. We pretty much have it all. And of course, a means to boil water comes in handy if you're stranded on the side of the road, and of course a food source, because you're going to be burning more calories trying to keep warm. Now, Europe is abnormally warm right now, and this is to the benefit of the Ukrainians in Kiev. It's single-digit plus temperatures right now, and it's actually quite warm, so the ground is not freezing nearly as fast as the Russians might have hoped, which is probably why we haven't seen the grand offensive yet. And this is also what is keeping energy prices manageably at a manageable level in Europe right now, is the unseasonably warm weather, which is above average. Now, it hasn't been above average in all places all the time, and we're going to see some wildly above average temperatures in North America, because I've been saying it for the longest time. Nobody believes me. The jet stream is broken. A lot of climate scientists are saying this too. It's very simple science that any layman can understand, but everybody likes elaborate esoteric theories about geoengineering and things like this. And look, Bill Gates came out and he said, yeah, there's this project we want to do which actually is geoengineering, and the whole idea is to stimulate what they call global dimming by spraying aerosols into the air that are going to reflect the sun's light to cool the planet down. Now, is something like this ever going to take off? Is it ever going to be unrolled in a fashion which is big enough to make a meaningful difference? I don't think so. But you just never know. I mean, the thinking about it, and of course this is going to feed all the conspiracy theories about geoengineering and chemtrails and all that stuff, something I don't subscribe to because there's no evidence. There's no physical concrete evidence, and just the scale and scope of the cover-up of that magnitude. And it's one of these things too where I think a lot of conspiracy, I hate using the word conspiracy theorist because it's a dirty word. It's a dirty designation because there are indeed some conspiracies out there. But people who always think that the elite control every single thing, it's almost coming from a place of hope. It's like you hope that we are masters of the universe and we control every variable in the equation. The fact is, there's a lot of dumb people at the top too, and not everything is in their control. We hope that it's in their control and that we can just artificially induce any outcome we want in the world. Unfortunately, I don't think that's the case, my friends. And I've looked at all the evidence. Guys, I've been in the internet realm of things for probably 20 years or so. And I'm talking about, I've seen every fringe alternative theory website that you can possibly imagine. And I've been down those roads. The roads that a lot of people are going down right now on the internet, I went down in 2008. Okay, when that whole recession hit. I was way down that path. Probably way too far in many respects. So I've foreseen all of this populist, anti-establishment sentiment emerging long ago, before I ever got into preparedness stuff. In fact, it was one of the things that prompted me to get into preparedness, was the realization that shit, these elites, they have a control over one thing, and that's their own destiny. Unfortunately, they don't have a control of all of the bad things that are going to happen in the world when resources become more scarce, when climate chaos ensues, and as I've long since predicted, the pandemic blows out of proportion. Now, I thought it would be a more substantial pandemic than the one we just had the last 3 years, and I do think that is still on deck and on track, possibly within the next 10 years. But, I realize that you're on your own. And this is not something, there are some things that human ingenuity, at least there's not a culture that's going to facilitate the cooperation required to remedy a lot of the problems that we are facing right now and are going to face in the future. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget, 14% off CanadianPreparedness.com. And Olight arc-filled, Benchmade bug out, American Lawman cold steel, and Leatherman skeleton tool. That's what I'm currently rocking in my EDC. That could all change tomorrow. You guys take care and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. If I don't see ya, we're going to be releasing our prediction video tomorrow for 2023. You're going to want to check that out, my friends. We put a little bit of work into that one. I put a little work into all these videos, but that one, the communist cameraman is on deck, and he actually did some work for once. So go check it out. Happy New Year, guys.